All right, so we are live here on episode 11 on the 11th day of November. So, episode 11 on 111 of the RAW BAND ERSON Show. It's a huge honor for me today to welcome my friend Kristina Trudel. Kristina, how are you doing?
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm doing wonderful. Nice to
Uh,
see you.
yeah, it's wonderful to see you, and thanks for coming on. And so, it's really cool that we're getting to do this. And Christina and I, we haven't chatted in a few years. It's probably since I left Sudbury, but we've known each other with what since grade nine, I guess. So like, how long ago is that? Like 24 years now?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So it's
25.
yeah, so it's awesome to connect with you, and we were chatting a little bit before we started recording. But today we're going to really talk about transitioning in life and following your life's path. And Christina was mentioning a little bit about what she's doing right now, studying Ayurveda, yoga, and things like that. So I wanted to ask you, obviously I know, but for the people out there that are tuning in and don't know your career path, kind of like let's take it back. I know that you work with special needs kids and kids with behavioral issues, and you've been doing that pretty much, I would say, since your whole life almost, right?
Yeah,
Your whole
since,
career.
since I graduated. Well, even in high school, I was doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. So take me through what made you decide to go take that career path.
Well, we had special needs kids at our school, and I always thought that they were super awesome. And then I like did placements, and yeah, I just was attracted to that path, and it's been really great for me. I mean, spending time with someone that's just likes the simple things in life, there's nothing better. It's so rewarding. And for the last 6 years, I worked with special needs students at, I worked for the Rainbow School Board. And I worked in a class, and they were between 4 and 6 years old. So, like the cutest kids you could ever imagine that, just were, I don't know, it was a really cool job. But then after last year, I decided to change. Like I needed a change, so now I work in a class with grade 7 and 8 students that aren't successful in their home schools, so they're in our program, and it's a challenge. I asked for a change and I got it. So but yeah, I'm really enjoying it, and it's nice to, like, talk with them and get to know them. And so that's cool. And but for the last few years, I've been thinking about changing careers. So yeah, I've been getting into yoga and Ayurveda, and I teach Chakra Dance a few nights a week. So that's what I've been up to.
Oh, cool. So we have a lot to talk about then. So taking like I guess now with COVID and everything and homeschooling, how has that changed your profession? Is it like I'm sure it's you're working with kids with behavioral special needs and things like that. Did that present? It seems like it's been a challenge from I know I don't have kids myself, but from my friends and family, like it was just it's been a very difficult adjustment for a lot of them, and so I can imagine it comes with its own unique challenges given your role. So how has that been affected you in your work?
I haven't worked very much in school for the last few years, which has been bittersweet. I like to study and do my own thing, so I've been really taking advantage of the time that I've been giving, which is nice. As far as the students go, though, like these grade 7 and 8 students, you can see it really takes a toll on their mental health. And it's there's nothing better than that human connection. So that's, I think, the biggest loss with COVID has been, even kids that how do you do online schooling with grade or 4 or 5 year old students that, well, I'll tell you how you do it. You do it for about 10-15 minutes, and then they've had enough, and you're like, their parents are like, get back here, so it just makes it really difficult. And it's basically like you can't do it. So actually, my school started remaining opening during COVID lockdowns because our students can't learn online. So yeah, but I have my own kids, so then that. But I think, like, the main thing is if people have good mental health, it's okay. But when you have poor mental health, it becomes a struggle. And I think that's what it all comes down to, is keeping yourself healthy. And if you're healthy, then it's easier, and if you're unhealthy, then I think it's harder.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point, and I think it provides its own unique challenges and kind of things to overcome, especially because now it's not just the mental health of the kids, but also the parents and what that relationship at home is. And I can only imagine that maybe some kids don't have the best home life, so that might be kind of creep into being at home. Like, I know growing up, I had friends that just, it's almost like going to school was an escape from them for their not so good home life. So I can only imagine that that's probably amplified during right now, right?
100%. They even say like the cases in like Children's Aid Society or like the calls into the Children's Aid Society are less right now because they don't have that school piece. And usually the schools, really take care of children. So absolutely, like that's, I think the mental health piece or even being healthy, right? And having healthy habits and we're talking about children, but if you look at parents, that's where it starts. And even the kids that I work with right now, I don't work with troubled children. I work with children whose parents, and the direct effect of that is that these children are suffering and having trouble in school, in social relationships. It's just, I think that's what it comes down to. It comes down to health, number one.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, before we started recording the call and doing the show, I was talking about my journey with yoga and how much that's affected me. And I truly believe, like, to the point where it's like, I think I might, eventually get my, whatever it is, to learn to become a yoga teacher because it's just been so profoundly impactful on my mental health and but also my physical health. But I think it's something that needs to be taught to kids right from the beginning of life, like in kindergarten, and just mindfulness. And so tell me a little bit about your journey, and how you got into Ayurveda and studying yoga and chakra dance. Like, did you have like an awakening, a spiritual awakening, or was it just something that you were interested in and you kind of slowly started studying, and or was there something that was like a catalyst and you said, I need to change my outlook or my approach to my career?
Well, the career thing has been always good. Like I've always been steady with my job. With I guess if you're asking like if something's happened to me, I guess like after high school, college was a really big struggle for me, and I think that was like my they call it like the dark night of the soul, or that part of your life that you're like, what is going on, and and all these things. So then I started reading like self-help books, and I couldn't read enough, and just adapting those strategies that they showed that I read about, and having all these aha moments, and get in. And it's been since then that really I've been interested in personal development and self-growth. And uh, I've done yoga, but recently I've had my yoga teacher training, and the chakra dance. Because I used to dance like in high school, or go to the bars and dance, and now I'm like, I don't really want to drink and go to the bars, and so I thought, well, I really like to dance, and I was into energy work, and I wanted to clear my energy, and I'm just into those kind of things. It goes with personal development. And I guess I didn't even know what I was getting into, but now that I've learned about the chakras and learned about like the energy that runs through your body and stuff, it's like it's so awesome. And it's kind of like guided visualization. So when people dance, I'll like, imagine yourself in a jungle, and you're surrounded by, animals, or imagine yourself around a campfire and you're surrounded by your ancestors, so I'm kind of guiding people on a journey with music. And each chakra has like a different tone and a different kind of music. So yeah, it's really cool. And just to hear people's feedback after of what their experience was, because I'm guiding them, and then they're like, oh my God, I really felt that, and it was so real. And or I got to see my mom again, or so it's actually really healing. It's a healing modality that moves energy through dance. And yeah, that's lots of fun. It's really fun to just be with people and connect with people and provide that experience for people.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, and like I don't do chakra dance, but I do love to dance. I DJ and mix music, and so I've always like I didn't realize that how much I actually loved it, but I do it. It's something I told you before that about 6 years ago, I threw out my lower back while doing P90X, a workout program. And so yoga was the first thing that got me back into like just focusing on my health and getting proper alignment and focusing on my core. And, and I would do my standing desk, and like I said, I couldn't even go for a jog because it was like I went for one, and it took me about a year and a half before I even went, because I just felt uneasy about the impact of it, and just I was like, I went and I was like, oh my god, it feels like it's gonna slip out again or whatever. And so dancing was kind of the first thing, like with yoga was the first thing that kind of got me back in. I would do my standing desk because I was working at home, and I would put on like a house music mix, and like so I was kind of just bopping around. And then I actually found that that was the most natural way. And it's like when you're not thinking about it, because when I was going for a jog, I was focusing on the injury so much that it's almost like I was feeding attention to it, and the fear of it happening again was not healthy, right? Whereas when I was dancing, because I was listening to the music and kind of like working or writing, and I'm not thinking about it, and I find myself kind of pushing myself a little bit more and more each day, and I would not really be cognizant of the fact that like, holy crap, I'm really moving a lot more than I think mentally I should be, because I feel like I'm going to hurt my back. But so yeah, it was between yoga and dancing. That was oh, hold on. I didn't even start doing weights again for years after that, but I found it such a um, powerful thing to help me heal. And so now every day, that's part of my workout routine. Is I work out at home, but I put on my 1 hour music mix and I do yoga, and I'm dancing around in between doing my weights, and it's just awesome. So what is chakra dance exactly? Because I mean, I know that I've seen you post things online on Facebook and stuff like that, but I'd never actually heard of it. So like, how did you get into it? Did you take training for it, or kind of lead us through, like, to people at home, the viewers, like what exactly it is, so that if they're interested in it, they can kind of look it up in their local area.
Okay. And yeah, no, about your lower back, you're right. Like even moving, dancing, you don't realize, but when you like focus on it, what you focus on grows, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, no, and it's true. It kind of takes your mind off it. So that's really awesome that you noticed that for sure. So chakra dance it's kind of like it's a registered trademark kind of course. So it would
Okay.
be like what am I trying to think of? Zumba or something like that. But it's actually a beautiful lady named Natalie Southgate, and she is in Australia right now. So it's
Okay.
an online course. And yes, it was a course that I took. And I guess I didn't even know what I was getting into. I just really like dancing and really like moving. And, so it's just clearing your energy centers and what you focus on, you like just I don't know it anyways. And it's all like super cool music, and it's all like she makes it her, or like she has I don't know, people I guess who make it for her. And it's yeah, it's just fun. It's just a lot of fun. It's really healing. And like you say, like even when I put on my headphones and dance, I like focus on, the parts of my body that are sore, and I just kind of move those in ways that are healing. And so that's actually what I do when I do chakra dance. It's not like you don't need to do certain moves or anything. You really do what your body needs at the time. So it's exactly what you're talking about, just with like different music that is made specifically for that, with like, I don't know, a lot of tribal music, a lot of like just different sounds that resonate with each chakra. That yeah, so it's really cool.
So like each chakra has its kind of like own frequency that it like vibes
Exactly.
with. Very
Yeah,
cool.
exactly.
I'm gonna have to. I'll put the link to this Natalie Southgate person below
Yes,
the.
it's www.chakradance.com if anybody wants to learn about it. And if you want to find an instructor in your area, I don't know if they do that anymore, but they used to put the links on their website to find instructors. I don't think they could like keep up with the instructors and where they were teaching and stuff. So I think that they removed that. But if like somebody's interested in becoming an instructor, it's a really good program. And yeah, I just like learned about a lot of, and energy, like chakras are used in like Chinese traditional medicine. Like all Eastern medicines have chakras that are all related. So it's interesting to learn about it. And in yoga, like in my yoga teacher training there, they talked about the chakras. In Ayurveda they talk about the chakras, so it's all like everything is related. And yeah, it's really interesting.
That's great. And like I the thing that made me realize about how, like we were talking about, like everything's energy, it's all vibration, and just the freedom that comes with, because like we come very constricted, like like growing up in small town Sudbury, Ontario, like as a guy, like dancing was not, it wasn't encouraged for men. Like it was not a manly thing to do. Like, you know what I mean? But like when we were teenagers and like started going to raves and things like that, that's when I started. I was like, well, okay, like that's when I learned how to dance. Like I don't think I danced in public per se until I was like 19 years old, and then I was like, from then on, it was like there was no stopping me, right? But it's such a freeing thing, and I think that's what people have to realize, is that you don't have to take courses to enjoy it. It's like painting or learning to play the piano or something. Like you can suck at something and still enjoy it, right? Like you don't have to. People think like, oh, I don't know how to dance. I didn't know how to dance. Like it's just you, like you said, you just go with the music, go with the movement, and you don't. That's why like I do it at home. I don't necessarily, when I do my workouts, I don't think I would be at the gym dancing, but like nobody's around to watch, so it's like very freeing. It's like try new things, just do whatever the music tells you to do. Like don't think about it, just go, like kind of let yourself flow, right?
And who knows how to dance, really? Like who I mean, I don't either. And I really just like when you get into the music, and it's on a settle. Well, first of all, people are embarrassed to dance, right? It's
Yeah,
always
yeah.
like they're self-conscious and they think everybody's looking at them. And I'm like, who are you? Like the Kardashians? Like, really, like nobody cares if you're dancing. But anyways, I just think, and it's like, it's healing. It's so healing. It's really moving your body is the freest thing that you could do. And yeah, I want to like teach them in Bell Park, but or I want to host classes in Bell Park, but I'm like, oh, people, it's that fear, right? That fear of people looking at you. But I mean, you're in nature, take off your shoes, like touch the grass, like that's what it's all about. But maybe one day, like hopefully I get there, right? Where people aren't like nervous to or like self-conscious to have people watch them.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's amazing. It's so cool. And it sucks being, no, it's great being in a yoga studio, but I mean, it's still constricting, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
I'd love to take it outside.
Well, you'll get there. I know. I have
Oh,
faith in you. You'll be doing Bell Park dance sessions, or
yeah.
maybe take people to a forest if they're self-conscious. But you
Well,
know
yeah.
what? It's like I grew up in Sudbury, and so you know what it's like. But it's kind of, I think it's like more of a small town mentality thing where people have that, like, because it's not that everybody knows each other, but it's like it, like there's a lot, you do know a lot of people, right? Even though it's not too small of a town, it's a small city. But it's kind of that feeling like, oh yeah, like somebody might see me being a weirdo. But here in Toronto, it's totally different. Like there's people doing Tai Chi in the park, like they don't give a shit, like they're just,
And you should be like,
yeah,
you're meant to move, and nature is nature. And like, I find like being self-conscious about yourself, the only person you're hurting is yourself. You're the only one not doing it. And
yeah, because you're
like, oh,
constricted in fear, right?
well, it's nice that it's normalized over there, because here
Yeah.
it's, I mean, I don't care, but lots of people do. I do like workouts on my deck at camp, and like I do, because I mean, I'm outside. It's like the freshest air I could breathe,
Yeah.
and I don't care if people think I'm odd, and that's okay. I'm good with it.
Yeah, people know I'm on, so they can think
That's
whatever they
right.
want.
I'm yeah, I'm over it.
And what's normal anyways? Normal's boring, right?
Well, and you know what? I think like, I don't know, to me, this is like, it feels so good and it makes me feel so healthy. And at the end of the day, I think like that tightness of what people think, or like, oh, having to live in that box, I think that's more like, that's tight, that's not freeing, right? It's not healthy, it's not uh good for you, it's not natural. So
No.
no, I think people should, be a little bit odd, or not odd, but get in nature. I think that's what it's all about. It's just being in nature and moving your body. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Exactly. And that's the thing, is that it's overcoming fear, and like I always like relate it like being constricted, like being tight and wound up, and like and even so I was talking about my lower back. and I didn't realize how bad I had when I was a kid. We used to do penguin dives into pools, so we'd jump in the pool without our arms, like just head first. And our pool at our house and my other uncle's house, they were both like really deep, like 10.5 feet. But then I went to my cousin's house, and their pool was only 6.5 feet deep, and I did that in there, and I hit my head. Like, I'm lucky I'm not a paraplegic or a quadriplegic, but I didn't realize how bad my neck was injured, and I think it healed incorrectly over the years. So after, when I started doing yoga, like I've been doing it for about 6 years now, and even recently, I like a few weeks ago, like as I just realized that my injury in my neck was healed incorrectly for probably my whole life. And so as I was about 3 weeks ago, I was dancing around, and just because, like, just being free and moving and not thinking about the injury, I had like my neck went and I was like, oh my God, like it sent shivers down my spine. I was like, I don't know if I've ever felt that release. Like my neck might have never made that movement. Like it was because I had that tension and constriction, and it healed that way since I was a kid, since I was like 8 years old, right? And so I think that it's a very healing thing, especially for people who have injuries that you. I was reading this article, and it just really resonated with what the guy was saying. Was that he said that, like, we have these old injuries, and especially for men who work out, because men that do like weights and stuff, right, that you eventually end up healing, the injury heals incorrectly, and you build up muscle around it, and it stays healed like that. So his recommendation was, if you've ever had any type of injury, he said, and you want to start working out, he said, don't do any weights, don't look at building muscle. He said, look at getting rid of it actually, and doing yoga and focusing on getting proper alignment first. Because if you're misaligned and you start working out, you're just going to amplify that misalignment, and it's just going to make it more pronounced, right? So that was an interesting theory that I listened to, and I actually stopped doing weights, my weight workouts, for about a year and a half, and I just did yoga and body weight exercises, and I think that had a profound help. And I think that some of the injuries that I'd had that had healed incorrectly, that you overcompensate for them, right? And so
Absolutely.
it was interesting to release that. And even with my neck, I was like, wow, like that's something that I had so much tension and constriction and fear of hurting again, that I didn't let it go back to normal, and it healed incorrectly. So yeah, dancing is a very powerful thing. So for people at home, and even myself, because I'm not too familiar with Ayurveda, can you kind of give us a run through about what that means, and yeah, just kind of how you've learned about it, and through your studies, like what it's meant for you?
Okay, so Ayurveda is a sister science to yoga.
Okay.
So yoga is there's 8 limbs of yoga, and yoga is for the mind as Ayurveda is for the body. So uh, it's about health, and basically it's like what foods are good for your digestive system, and everything starts with digestion, and including like your mental processes, your health, your happiness, your everything, that your whole well-being, total well-being. So it's a holistic science. It comes from India, as does yoga, and it's like the oldest medical system that is known. I think even Chinese traditional medicine has picked up a lot of like the tips and tricks from Ayurveda. So it kind of piggybacks on Ayurveda, and Ayurveda is based in, so a lot of the recommendations that I would make are yoga related. So meditation, breath work, and postures, asanas, poses, as well as herbs. And you can even go into things like aromatherapy or color therapy, or even like exposing yourself to nature, right? Getting in nature is like huge. So uh, yeah, like even if you're having trouble with your eyes, for example, getting out into nature and seeing those natural like that natural scenery is like super healing for your eyes, rather than looking at these screens like we do all day. But yeah, so it's really based in nature. It believes that we're 5 elements, so like air, water, wind, no, air, water, fire, earth, and ethers. So ethers are unseen energies, and as we were talking about before, like those really cool energies that seem to be give us those synchronicities that we see in life. So yeah, that's what we're made up. That's what everything in this world is made up of. The 5 elements, and different combinations, and we're all different combinations. So it takes into part like, or takes into account all the different people that people are different, and it would be that you're made up of different amounts of the elements that I am. So and just treating that the way it is and getting down to like the root causes of disease and trying to eliminate the root causes so that the body could heal itself naturally.
Yeah, I really like what you said about like the preventative side of it, because I feel like here, at least in Canada and like, you know, the Western world, and I can't speak for all parts of the world, but our medical system is so reactive, right? And you mentioned before about like when you actually get diagnosed with the disease, like you're already far down in that stage. Like, so kind of explain what you were mentioning about like the different stages of disease. And you know, disease means the body's not at ease and gradually getting worse and worse, and people almost, that's why it's like the, if you've ever heard the like the term like death by diagnosis, and that's why a lot of people, by the time they get diagnosed with cancer, they die a few months later, right?
Absolutely. And yeah, like think about how long your body's had that disease, you know, when it gets diagnosed. So if you would pay attention to things like, oh, acid reflux, or having headaches, or you know, even stress, right? Like feeling stressed all the time. Like these are all signs. This is your body yelling at you. It's saying, hello, like there's something wrong, right? Instead, so what would our Western medical system do? They would like provide you some medication. And I'm just thinking also like mental health also, right? That's your body telling you that there's something that's not right.
Mm-hmm.
So what the Western world would do is completely different than what Ayurveda would tell you. Ayurveda would tell you to, you know, really watch what you're taking in through your five senses. So touch, taste, smell, hearing, and whatever the fifth one is. But yeah, so like whatever you're doing, whatever you're taking in through your senses is how we experience the world, and probably something that you're taking in is not well, right? It's not serving you. So you might want to just look at that as a starting point. And food is huge, right? We're like so indulgent in food, and that's when it's, you know, the problems that we have in this Western society, they're all problems of affluence, which means that it's because we have way too much time and way too much money, and we're like killing ourselves slowly with it. So if you get back to nature, get back to simple foods, like I was telling you about the khichdi recipe that is recommended like at least once a week, but it's like rice, mung beans, and vegetables, and it's like super good for your digestion. It doesn't taste like, you know, totally amazing, but it's not bad either. It's like, well, I shouldn't.
Well,
even
you could season it probably to taste a little bit as well, right?
well,
Like,
you use spices and herbs are like they're medicine.
mm-hmm.
So if you get back to using ancient herbs and ancient, like not even ancient, just like natural, instead of having like the La Grill, you know, steak seasoning or whatever.
Montreal steak spice.
Right. So this is like made in a factory, but if you get back to having like cumin and coriander and fennel and turmeric and, you know, using mineral salt and all of these things, black pepper, I can go on forever. And herbs, right? Herbs are really, really cool too. And they're actually like they're digestive aids, so they help your digestive system. And it's not that it tastes bad, it's that your taste buds, if I give it to Mike, for example, he's like, oh, this is not, you know, he'll go have like whatever, and I'm okay with it, he's just not ready for it. But when that's the way you eat all the time, it actually becomes super delicious, and I crave it. Like if I eat something that's, you know, whatever. The other night we had like pizza, and it was like, okay, like the next day I'll make khichdi because I just feel good when I eat it. And it's just super, like if you feel clean, you feel like your body's not fighting you to digest things, and you're not feeling sluggish and tired. I feel like I have tons of energy, and my brain is clear, which is like super important and super cool when you see that food does that. Or like sometimes I feel like I'm high, but it's just because I'm eating so well. Like that's so fun when you feel that way. It's like, wow, you know, I just know that I'm doing things right.
You've been eating the magic mushrooms, haven't you, Kristina?
Well, I do eat mushrooms, but
Yeah.
I actually the magic ones.
I actually this summer I didn't know there was so many types of mushrooms, and going to the farmers market, and they had like a mixer pack of mushrooms, and it was like amazing to try all these different types because you kind of use them as substitute for meats in some dishes, like some like
Yeah.
pasta dishes, and like some of them almost have the same type of texture, like they're very dense and like super interesting. But like going back to what you were saying, that I think is very important, that diet isn't, everybody thinks his diet is just what you eat, but it's not. It's like watching the news. If you're watching negative things all the time, it's what you watch, what you listen to, the vibrations that you're around. If you're in, if you're surrounded by negative people, that's your diet too, because you're taking that in, right?
Absolutely. At 100%, this makes up your thoughts. Even, for example, well, my son just started playing Fortnite. He got it for Christmas. And now he's like, I'm having nightmares. And he knows it's because of Fortnite. And I'm like, this is making impressions in your brain. Or, when I think of things, it's like, I'll think of whatever the person said, like, the night before. Like, so imagine if you're watching somebody get murdered on television, right? Like, that is making an impression in your brain and you're carrying that with you. So
Exactly.
it's, yeah, everything that you do with your senses, and there's like one of the things that causes diseases is abuse of the senses, and the other one. So there's change of season, or no, the effects of the seasons. So you want to like do specific things in seasons to live according to the laws of nature, but also the mistakes of the intellect. So when you know something's bad and you do it anyways, and I catch myself doing it all the time. I'm like, oh, this is so bad, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Or I think also being conscious of it, then sometimes I'm like, no, like, I can make that choice of whether I want to do it. But it's like just being so indulgent that you can't control yourself, that causes diseases. Like that makes you sick. And
Hmm.
yeah, so I think just being conscious of what you're doing is like huge for your health.
Yeah, and how it affects you, because like even I used to like there was a point in my life where I could eat pizza every day. Like about 10 years ago, I was telling you, I was like 250 pounds, and I lived right by this pizza parlor, and they made amazing pizza. And like the guys there, I would go there every day because I had at the time I was working, and I had a 1.5 hour commute each way, and that was like if I caught everything, like that was like a good, it could be, it was a lot of times closer to 2 hours. So by the time I would get home from work, if I left right at 5, it was like, at least 6:30. And I just like, I would just get a slice of pizza and pop every day. Like, and now like I was like, I still love pizza. Like I'm never gonna I don't think I could ever stop eating
We
pizza.
all love pizza.
Yeah, and like I've been, like last year I started eating less meat and everything, and so this year I've just been eating vegetarian pizzas, and luckily, living in Toronto, I have like no shortage of selection of amazing pizzas, but it is really difficult to, we weren't raised like that, like to be conscious of what we ate and things like that. At least I wasn't, and so but like you said, it's very like now to the point where when I have pizza, I'm like, oh my God, I go into a carb coma. Like I'm like, I'm tired, I'm sleepy. Like the next day I feel kind of off. And so like you said about feeling, having a clean mind and brain and body, but like now, every day, I try to make fresh pressed juice, and we started this tradition years ago. My brother, when I was living with him, he bought a juicer, and so we'd alternate days, but like cucumber, celery, carrots, ginger, lemon, uh, and an apple, I think. I'm trying to, but and like that was doing that every day. It was like,
Amazing. That's
yeah,
awesome.
and yeah, and that was probably like, aside from drinking, more water and doing like Wim Hof breathing and really focusing on your breath. Those are like, I think juice was like one of the hugest changes, and the things that you notice the most. One of the things that you notice the most, and I think I noticed it like when I was still drinking. It's like on a day when you'd have a hangover and then you'd have a juice, it would like instantly cure the hangover. Not maybe not cure it, but like you'd feel like way better, right? And so that's kind of how I figured out the power of juice. But so many things that we just were, and like you said, now that I've changed my diet so much, like today after I was done my workout, I had I make like this little mixer thing. I take like a handful of almonds, sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, and walnuts, and I put a little garlic powder and salt, like salt and pepper, and it's just like that's what I eat after my workout, and it's like super clean, and like I don't, and you feel like satiated and full and energetic and not lethargic, right? Like, so it doesn't take your body a lot to process that, but I feel so much better just having that, and I feel full. Like after a big workout, that's enough to like tide me over for a few hours, right?
It's so it's people think we have to eat more, and if you eat 3 times a day the size of what you could fit in your 2 hands, like that's enough to sustain you. You don't need anything more than that. Is just extravagance. It's not actually because you need it to sustain yourself, and actually that's when you start putting on the pounds, right? and
Yeah.
and even I can't believe that you were 250 pounds, but
I,
that's the power of pizza, right? That's the power of processed wheat.
yeah.
And now I joke with my kids at school. I'm like, you need the processed wheat, eh? Like they all go crazy for it. Like they need the goldfish crackers and the processed wheat, anything that's processed wheat. And it's addictive, and it's not good for you. Yeah. But like you were saying about the way that we weren't raised this way. And I see my parents now, and it's hard to even. My dad teases me now, like, oh, you want to eat the steak, or he always there's always those like little jabs.
Yeah.
And but I think you're right. We weren't like, I remember growing up on pizza and chicken fingers, sure, and my mom worked all the time, so it was easy to make. But I don't know. Like, I'm like, how did we not know better? Or I remember once you put a post and said, remember when Dave from Subway, we thought that was healthy?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
And now we learn and we know more. And
As if you remember that. That was years ago.
I know, but I was like, oh my God, that's so smart. And it's true. Like, 10 years before, we really thought, oh, this eat Subway, it'll make you thin, right? And now we're like, no, that's not really smart.
The power of advertising, right? They just say it is, and everybody, everybody thought it was, well, it's better than McDonald's, right?
Well, or like, drink lots of milk, it's good for your bones. Like, it's all things that we were raised with. But if you look at the way the food, it's all advertisement, and it's all the big companies that are, it's like taking, prescription medication, right? Like, take this, it'll make you feel better. So if you don't know what you're putting in your body, and you just, go with what the media tells you, and the mass media, right? Like, and even the people, like you were saying, we didn't grow up like this. Like, everybody buys into this, whether you want to talk about food or television, even the Fortnite example that I gave you earlier, like, I'm like, we should not buy this for an 8-year-old. Like, it says 14 plus, now he's having nightmares. I know it's not good, but as a parent, society says, oh, everybody on his hockey team's playing it, so it's okay, right? So how do I go against that, right? It's hard to do the right thing when everybody's doing it this way, right? So I'm faced with that a lot. I find personally, like, even with coworkers, nobody else eats the way I do, or whatever. Like, they don't care what I eat, but everybody has pizza on Friday, and I do too, but very rarely. And well, yeah, anyways, it's just little things that now I'm like, no, I know that that's not healthy for me, and I know that I'm going to feel like crap afterwards, so it's not really appealing to me.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is, for me growing up, like because like I was saying this to somebody like a few weeks ago. I didn't realize, like, I felt like crap all the time, so I didn't know what feeling like crap actually was. Like, I smoked cigarettes, I drank beer, I ate pizza, like my whole diet and my whole lifestyle. Like, I didn't realize that I was just like, my base level was feeling like crap all the time until I started cutting those things out of my life. And like last year was the first year like I quit smoking and drinking, and I was like, wow, like, and eating healthy, and like now it's like I don't have headaches. I don't, like, I hardly, I haven't been, knock on wood, sick in a couple years. Like, and even at that, the last time I remember getting sick, it was just like sneezing for a day or two. Like, I wasn't, I haven't been bedridden from a flu or anything like that in probably like, 8 years, 10 years, and just the little things like it eating healthy. Actually, another thing too that I wanted to touch on was breathing, because we were talking about before we started recording, and I know people, I'm always touting the Wim Hof breathing method. Talk to me a little bit about how you got into the breathing, and if, is there certain methods or practices that you follow?
Oh, so like right now I do something called the four purifications, but I won't get into that because that's a little bit complicated. But like I just think even like changing that air in the morning, like imagine waking up and having that cigarette, right? Like what are you giving to your lungs right away in the morning? And I mean, it's okay if that's what you do, but like you said, you don't know what you're missing until you actually do it. But I think just getting up in the morning and taking like really deep breaths and then really exhales, and even like holding your breath, like on the inhale, inhale, then hold, then exhale fully. Like if you imagine your torso being a container and you fill it up with air and then you like empty it completely, and you can even like tighten your pelvic floor muscles and like really scrunch and exhale it completely,
Yeah.
and then taking that big breath again and doing a few of those, like that changes your whole air and it rejuvenates all the cells in your body. And I mean there's so many like there's alternate nostril breathing, which actually balances your right side of your body, for like your right brain and left brain, and your right energy channels and your left energy, or they kind of mingle together, they hit your chakras. But just changing that breath, and like you said, it's huge, and we're teaching that to the kids at school, like when you get frustrated, just take some breaths. And I've seen over and over and over again how breathing could change your life. And yeah, like it's changed mine for sure. It's something that I do when I just sit quietly in the morning, focus on my breath, and change that breath that's in there, that stale air, and get some new air. And even going out in nature and taking some really big deep breaths. And so breath is like life force, right?
Hmm.
And it is the life force that we take in. And
You
I
said it
think
was called prana, right? In
Prana, yes.
Ayurveda.
So in Sanskrit, which is what Ayurveda and yoga is, the original language, yes, it's called prana. And even food has prana, right? So it has life force. So you want to eat things that are alive. So vegetables that are living, and or as close to fresh as possible, as fresh as possible, as close to like it being taken out of the ground or taken off the tree as possible. I find that hard here in the north, like finding fresh food. That's why I like working at the farmers market, because it's like, yeah, anyways, there's fresh food there. But it's like so seasonal, right? There's just a few months out of the year. But yeah, like getting that life force. If you want life force, you have to like eat it and take it in, and through your breath and through your food, and then your cells will become alive and you'll be alive and feel good. That's what we're talking about, and healthy.
Yeah, totally true. And sorry, I'm just going to reset our timer here because I said I would set the timer so that we stayed around an hour, but we got 20 minutes left about.
Okay.
But breath is incredible. Like I smoked, I don't know, ever since since we were in high school, like probably grade 9 or grade 10, I think I started. And I smoked secondhand smoked way before that because my whole family smoked pretty much, and
Yes,
that's
it's
the kind
crazy.
of, yeah, we grew up in the 80s, right? That's I
Right.
think everybody smoked back then. But I didn't realize how shallow my breath was, and I was telling you that a couple years ago. Um, I thought I was having a stroke or a heart attack or something. I might have been a panic attack. I didn't know what was going on, but I had been practicing at the time doing Wim Hof breathing, and so that was what got me through that episode. I thought I was gonna have to call 911 and get an ambulance, but I did the deep breathing, and it's become such a routine part of my day. I do it at least pretty well. I do it about 5 6 days a week before I get out of bed, and then the only other time on the seventh day I try to change up my schedule and do creative scheduling so I don't feel like my life is so monotonous. But sometimes I'll go sit in a park and do it in a park on a park bench or whatever. But I do it every day, and sometimes multiple times a day, because
Yeah.
it's just until you become consciously aware of these things. Like I feel like I personally, and a lot of our society over here in Western society, we're just on autopilot all the time, and like we're so unconscious of our thoughts, our breathing patterns, our behaviors, our diet, right? And like this is all kind of coming to light now, it seems, right? Like in the past couple of years.
I think so. And I just want to say, like, a way to manage stress is like stop and take 10 deep breaths. Like, and it's hard, like I'll get distracted after 3, right? I'm like, and then I'm like, oh, gotta do something, right? No, stop yourself and actually try and take 10 deep breaths. I bet you it's really difficult. It's,
Yeah.
it's hard to even concentrate for that long. But also, like, when people are say like that want to quit smoking, I'm like, when you quit, take a huge breath and say, thank goodness that I could do this, right? And like, so be grateful that you can have those deep breaths rather than smoking a cigarette, like than being a slave to that cigarette that clearly makes you feel like crap. And so yeah, those are like, I don't know, breathing is huge. It's just incredible, like the effects that it could do. Like I said, it could reduce stress, and it could just make you aware of your body. And I think that's the beginning part of like being healthy, is being aware of your habits. And yeah, and I think focusing on your breath, like if there's anybody who wants to like, try to, make changes, start with your breath.
Yeah.
Something that we do anyways, right?
Yeah. And like you said, it's really, it seems like, oh, well, like, 10 deep breaths, I could do that. Like I breathe all the time. It seems like this thing, like, but you don't realize, like, even doing my Wim Hof and expanding my lungs, and I smoked for so long, like I've actually found like doing deep breathing has like, I was telling you about my back being out of alignment. I've had my back be like, feel like cracks in my back from expanding my lungs and being like, oh my God, like I didn't even know that I was out of alignment there. And when I first started trying to do the Wim Hof breathing, I don't even know if I do it correctly. It's been so many years since I actually watched the videos, but I take 30 really deep breaths, and then hold my breath for as long as I can and time it sometimes. I don't now I don't necessarily time it all the time. But I didn't like to do 30 deep breaths in a row 3 times in a row. Like it takes a lot of concentration because your mind just starts wandering. You're like, oh, I got to do this today. I got to, like, just like life starts coming at you, like, and it's a lot harder than it sounds to take the time in the morning to do 90 deep breaths in a row. Right. And it's actually very meditative too. So if I know people think of like meditation, like it's something that seems so foreign. Like when I was young and taking martial arts, like I remember being 6 in Taekwondo and like teacher tried to say meditate, and I was like, no, like I came here to learn punches and kicks, not sitting here doing nothing. And like in our society, like you said, where it seems like we're the society that's so affluent, we have more time than we ever have, but we feel like we don't have any time because everybody's so stressed out with their lives, like keeping up with the Joneses and trying to do all this, that their minds are always moving. So if you want to try meditation of a certain form, I think doing breath work is the very first thing, because to me it's like, yeah, meditation is like, as a man in Canada, like you think like, oh, like I don't have time to sit there and like it's just like we don't have time to, like, you could sit there and watch an hour of TV, but you can't sit there for 20 minutes and meditate and do deep breathing. It's just like, it's so backwards, right?
Well, there's that saying, if you can't make time for your health, you're certainly going to make time for sickness. And I think everything that we've been talking about is exactly that, right? So, I mean, there will be some people who want to do these things and some people that are completely not interested. But I think the proof is in the pudding. And I think, when you see people, whether it's weight or whether it's like stiffness in the joints or even, just being cranky all the time, like that's your health. And this is the starting, like not the starting point. I mean, you can always like trade up food, and well, I think we talked about that too, but like just being conscious of yourself. And if not, you're kind of like a victim to the circumstance, right? And you just, and eventually, like we were talking about in Ayurveda, you're going to have those diseases, and you're going to, it just happens. Like, and food is medicine. And if you're taking shallow breaths all the time, your brain's not getting the oxygen that it needs to be smart and to actually work properly. And it's all connected. And yeah, I think either you start being aware of it or you don't. But it's either like choosing to be proactive or choosing to be reactive, right? So when you're reactive, then you go to the doctor and you get pills and you do all these things. But when you're proactive, you get to do yoga, and that's putting years on your life. It really is. It's giving you, and it's giving life to your years. And
Yeah, that's important too, right? Because I think, sorry to cut you off, but like I heard this saying that people aren't living longer, they're dying longer, and it's true. Like, what's good
absolutely.
spending the last 20 years of your life like in an old age home with no quality? You know, you have quantity but no quality.
And we see it all the time. And apparently, this is really the cool thing to do. Like, that's the ironic part of it, right? People are
Yeah.
like, yeah, let the kids play Fortnite. It's okay. Like, meanwhile, I'm like, let's move to the bush and, like, drink healthy water. And I'm the, one that, I don't know, like, it's kind of a battle in my family. It's a joke too there. But I mean, uh, and then there's the society who does things like the norms, right? And I just find that they're so far off. Like, we've gone so far to, well, to imbalance. We're imbalanced, and it shows. And I think getting back to balance, and what it really comes down to is just living a lot simpler, and like living simply. And even for mental health, like, that's the trick. Living a simple life, that's really the trick to having good, like, chasing things all the time or wanting, uh, that causes suffering. It really does. And that's actually one of the ethics of yoga. Is like, one of them is contentment, to be content with what you have. And
Yeah.
when you learn that, it's like, okay, and then you don't have that wanting that all the time, right? It's
Well,
wanting food, wanting, a good time, wanting, you're always wanting. And then
you're never
eventually,
living in the now.
well, yeah, and it catches up to you for sure.
Yeah, and it's so true. And then it's like I like the referring to like destination addiction because when you're always like, I found I was guilty of that when I was a kid. That it's like we're always looking forward to Friday or this or comparing ourselves like like or like it's like okay well and it's almost like society's structured like that like oh like kids are always wanting to grow up be like I want to be an adult I want to be they never like enjoy being a kid it's always like oh I want to hang out with the adults I want to it's like get your license like get my first drink and it's like there's always like you're always like looking to the next thing and it's cool to
Oh,
have
that
goals.
when, yeah.
Yeah, and so I think that like you said like more like simply and we equate living simply with like being poor, right?
Yeah, or being boring, right? It's
Yeah,
boring to live simply.
yeah, and like you know what like I to for me now, like when I think it was like a week into lockdowns, I was jogging probably about 5 times a week up until then, and then for some reason it was like I just one day I was like I was like timing and I was doing a run tracker and I beat my best run and I was all like proud of myself. But then I was like, the next day, I was like, what am I running from or to? And I just, something, it was like the universe or God or whatever was like, you don't need to be running. And I just stopped running. And I was like, we're on lockdown. Like, I don't need to like get my workout in a certain amount of time. Like, and I just started walking and it's almost 2 years now and I've been walking ever since. And I'll go anywhere from about minimum 40 minutes, but sometimes I'll go, like, there's times where I'll go like 3 4 hours if it's like especially when the days get longer, and I'll get up super early and like you could if you leave at like 5 a.m. I can do a 3 hour walk and be home by 8 a.m. still, right? Like and so yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I get up really early too.
Yeah, I have trouble with the winter when the days are shorter, but like it's easy to get up with the sun, right? So it's like I
Well,
find it's
that's part of Ayurveda, is like going with the cycles of the day, going with the cycles of the season. And I mean, so if the sun gets up later, then you probably should get up a little later, right?
yeah, it's like in the summer though it's like amazing like like I'm looking forward to those days where it's like it starts getting sunlight at like 4:45 or whatever and it's like that's amazing. And last year where we used to live I loved it because it was like I was saying to you before, we were right on the on the edge of Markham, so like south of us was all like like neighborhoods and stuff, but north of us was all uh, farmland. And there was just this amazing place that was like reclaimed farmland along this river, and it was like heaven in there. You'd go in there and you couldn't see any buildings, any it was just like amazing, and it was like you didn't feel like you were so close to the city. But like yeah, there was even one time it was May, it was super cold, and I was like I'm gonna jump in this river, and I was like, oh, what if it's like polluted? I'm like, no, I'm just gonna go. It feels right. Like I like stripped down to my boxers and found a place that was like deep enough because it's not a very deep river, but like it was a couple feet deep, and I just like jumped backwards and kind of like laid down and fell in it. It was like super refreshing. But I would do that walk a couple times a week, and it's just amazing to reconnect with nature and like you have this newfound, like, I don't know, in our society, like we become so disconnected with nature. Like I just, it's like I was looking at everything with like childlike eyes. Like, you know, I realized, I was like, look how many different types of birds there are and stuff, and I was like, oh my god, am I becoming a bird watcher now? Like that's what, yeah, is that what's getting me off now, is watching birds? I'm like, oh dear. But yeah, just reconnecting with nature and God and the universe, and like how magical it can be when you shut off your mind. And like sometimes I would just stand there and it'd be bring like tears to your eyes, just like thinking about how beautiful it is. And I was like, what's, like, you know, that 10-year ago Rob wasn't doing those things, you know.
But 10 year ago Rob probably wasn't healthy, right?
No, he was fat
Right.
and ate too much pizza.
And what
And
you're talking about right now, that's healing. That's like so healing for your mind, for your body, for everything. And I think that's what it's all like. That's the secret. That's the key, right? That's what it's all about. And I think we've just gone so far. And, uh, it's funny because nobody knows what Ayurveda is. And it's exactly what I'm talking about, the rhythms, the cycles of life, even the stages of life, the herbs, everything from nature, food from nature, clean water, living simply, like really. And it's really not that popular. And I'm like, why is it not popular? Because there's mass media is not promoting it, right? That's what it comes down to, I think. And
yeah.
it's kind of like a little hidden secret that I've really been loving. And I'm hoping, like in Sudbury, there's no Ayurvedic health counselor. And so I'm really hoping to bring that to my community.
Oh, that's amazing. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're going to be like on the forefront.
Well, isn't it ironic? Like, I think it's,
But
yeah.
yeah, but it's amazing though, and I know that you'll do it, and it's going to be awesome. But because there's nobody, that's like the perfect opportunity, right? And I honestly think that it's like people. This is like when we came into lockdowns, like I was like, okay, like that's, you know, some people, like I had been working from home for a few years before that, and I actually liked going out to the office, like the shared office, a couple times a week and stuff like that. Like I know a lot of people were like, yay, we get to work from home. That's cool. But for me, it was actually like a little bit of the opposite. I was like, oh, like I don't want to be locked down. And but so I tried to use my time wisely, and I started reading a lot of books, and that's when I really had the time to focus on things. And it's like, okay, yeah, like these are the things, like I do want to heal. Like I don't, like I know that if I keep this trajectory in my life's not going to be the optimal timeline that I want. And that doesn't mean that you can't, like, you know, people think like living simply, you can't still do the things that you love. But it's like you have more time for the things that you love when you're living simple, because you have a clear mind. You're not stressed out. You're not, like you said, you don't have brain fog. You're not ruminating. You're not just aimlessly like on autopilot having these negative thoughts all the time. And like for me now, it's like, yeah, like I've whittled away a lot of the things in my life. But like, yeah, a big part of the thing that I love to do is go ride my motorcycle, and I just go explore in nature and like sit by a lake and hang out and like just whatever. Like that, to me, that's like the best thing to do. It's so fun. And I think that it takes a lot of effort to like get rid of those habits and things like that. And even, you know, video games, like I don't play many video games anymore, but I still do like once in a while. But I stopped playing the violent ones. Like I was like, oh, I just like, I'd rather do a racing game or something that's like fun or competitive, right? But yeah, like it's a big thing. There's like, that's huge. Like Fortnite's a what, like a, I'm not even sure what it is. It's like a Call of Duty.
I'm new to Fortnite, but
It's like a Call of Duty thing, right? Like shooting, like first
yeah,
person
it's
shooter.
like they
Yeah.
all run through the field and it's live. So like there's other people in it, and you have to, like, I guess they start out with 40 people and you have to shoot all 40 to get number, like
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
rank
Yeah.
whatever that 40 is. So it's, and so imagine, even we're talking about stress, like the stress of these kids, right? To try to get to number one, and like they're panicking because there's people there, and like that's so affecting your emotions inside your body, your energy, your like hormones, and your like serotonin levels, and all of those things are being affected when you're playing a game and you're always in that like fight or flight mode. It's really, and then these kids, I see it every day. They have like these tantrums when they get off, and like it's like withdrawals, right? It's just so anyways, that's one. And just it's just like a new addiction that's, I mean, I know you grew up with video games, but not to this extent, right? Not when it's live and there's all these like people and they're talking to each other and they're like yelling at it because they're into it, right? So like there's a lot of yelling happening, and even for my health, like watching this, I'm like, this isn't good for me. Like this isn't good for anybody. But anyways, I'm kind of fighting against that right now. Like as far as, what's like walking that line, finding that balance between what's acceptable and what's healthy for my kids. And, I'm kind of competing against mainstream like acceptability levels. And I'm like, this is a losing battle. Like it's really hard to compete against that, right? Like there's that high that goes with it, but also with those highs come lows. And it's really but like, and I've been trying to tell my kids to like just slow down, take time for yourself, don't turn on the TV right away in the mornings, or I've thrown the word meditation around it, and it's not received well. So trying to compete against that is so difficult. But I do know, well, and Ayurveda says like, this is what Ayurveda is all about. Like if you feel crappy, these are the solutions. Like this is the remedy to these problems. And you don't have to go to the doctor and get pills. You really just need to slow down. You just really need to start listening to your body, start honoring, what you put in your body, and what you watch, and what you do with your time. And when you were talking about COVID, I was just a thought that I came up with was like, it'll be interesting to see what people did with their time in COVID. Like you could have either used your time for good or, kind of wasted it away watching TV, right? So I just think it's really interesting. And I think that what people did in COVID will say a lot about them in the future. Like I think, but yeah, that was just a thought that I had.
Yeah, well, it's true because like I looked, and I think everybody's on their own journey. So I think for some people that was maybe they needed that. They were so stressed out at their jobs, working 9 to 5 and with kids.
Exactly.
So like, that's why everybody's kind of, I think people now they're seeing, okay, how can I use this extra time? And it's like, wow, like years ago before even lockdowns happened, I decided that I was going to just do 6 hour work days and like take the loss on my income and live a little bit more simple, and take the 2 hours that I wasn't working those days and put that towards like my physical health, like doing yoga and my workouts and walking or whatever, or jogging, right?
That's incredible that you were able to do that, because I find that's what I'm going through right now is well, you were always self-employed, but for me, like to try to get out of the job, right? You get fixed hours. How do you take care of your physical health when you have that,
Yeah.
right? So just it's interesting. It's doable, but I end up waking up really early in the morning, and
Well, I think that the future we have to like be, proponents of. I think that companies have to really start realizing that they need to do. I think 6 hour work days or 4 day work weeks need to be the norm, because people aren't effective. Like I managed, sales teams, like groups of 14, 15 people, and like people aren't working for 8 hours straight, whether you want to admit it or not. Like we're not slaves. Like people need time to like, especially in sales, doing telephones for high pressure and affects your mental health. And I think that people would be way like productivities. I know that there's already studies in places, I think in like Sweden and Finland, where they're moving to, well, I think there was, maybe it was Sweden, that they did 6 hour work days, and that was super, productivity was up. Some places are doing 4 day work weeks. I think actually 6 hour work days and even a 5 day work week still is probably healthier, because it's balancing each day out a little bit better, rather than, because people will still just like, that's how it was structured, was that like everybody's like working hard all week and then getting fucked up on the weekends, and there's no time for personal, like, you just like party all weekend, and then you just like go back to Monday, and Monday's like sitting at the desk like a zombie. Like it's
you're no
not,
healthier.
no, exactly. So
Yeah.
but I think we're coming up just on an hour or slightly over. So Kristina, I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming on, and I hope you'll come back on again. In a few months, maybe we could reconnect, and maybe that by then you'll be leading Sudbury with the Ayurveda and Chakra
Ah,
Dance
I hope so.
and doing Chakra Dance in Bell Park.
Yes, those are my goals. Those are the goals. So yeah, I'll let you know for sure. It'd
And
be nice.
so any parting words of wisdom or anything that you want to share with the viewers at home out there?
Um, you could follow me on Christina's Best Life on Instagram and follow my chakra dance page at Dance Your Chakras Sudbury on Facebook.
Okay, cool. I'll get the links from you and I'll put them underneath in the not the comment section, but the description section on the video. So if anybody wants to reach out to you or connect with you, they can do that.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Bye.
Bye.